All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program training. As we have people joining us here, I'm going to encourage you to open your chat. That's where I put the link to the presentation for today, as well as some of the additional training materials. So if you want to get those pulled up, that might be helpful as we go through all this. And for those that have just joined, I'll wait one more minute before I put it in the chat again. There's two links, one to the presentation and then one to a Google Doc where all of the things that we'll talk about today are linked. All right, well, it's officially 2 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jessie Coffey, and I am the Director of Whole Child Programs at the Department of Education and work with the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. And as we get started, I'll just remind everybody to go ahead and mute yourself if you're not already muted, so that we can minimize some of that background noise. Thank you. So I have been working. We're gonna just wait one more minute. There's a lot of dinging, lots of people joining, so that's fine. And I'm just gonna mute some folks. I know sometimes that is hard to figure out how to do. Okay. So like I said, my name is Jessie Coffey. I work for the Department of Education. I'm the Whole Child Director, and I work with the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. And prior to coming here, I was able to work in the schools in Lincoln Public Schools for about 9 years, administering our Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. And as a dietitian and a mom and just a person that loves this program, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about all of the amazing aspects of the program and some of the additional flexibilities that we don't normally have with this program today. So again, I think I'm just going to put, since we had some people joining in the chat, is the presentation and then all the support materials. So you can find those if you want to link into them. So welcome everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much for all you do for your school and your district and supporting our kiddos and their well-being. We know that their students' nutritional needs are foundational to being able to be successful with academics. And the past 18 months has kind of been bananas. It's the work that you do has never been more important as we again work to support that nutrition and foundational needs of students. I think last spring when we were all planning for this year, we thought maybe it would look a little bit different. So I again appreciate all of the work that you do for our programs and for our kids and for our staff in our buildings. And really the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is really centered a lot around nutrition education and just getting kids the opportunities to try food and try things that they've never seen before or don't always have access to the school lunch menu. So give some extra flexibilities, and we'll talk a lot more about that later. So today, our training topics include, I'm just gonna move some stuff around. Our goal is to, the training topics include the goals of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program and the purpose, the additional flexibilities, because really, I have a link here. All the hyperlinked items are yellow in the slides. So if you want to link on that, but much of the information in the handbook is slightly different this year with those additional flexibilities. And we'll talk a bit more about those. We'll talk about the allowable and non-allowable components of the program, nutrition education and promotion and what that can look like, budgeting for the program, administrative and operational costs, Lauren will do a little bit of discussion around the claims and actually accepting your award for fruit and vegetable program, and then integrating local options if that works out for you. And then again, here at the bottom is the link to the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program website. So hold on, I have one request here. So the goal of the program really is to focus on the benefit of fresh fruits and vegetables for students. And so the program creates healthier food environments by providing healthier food options, expanding a variety of choices, with the long-term goal of increasing students' fruit and vegetable consumption. We know just offering it to them sometimes doesn't get them to eat it, but the benefit of the program in the classroom with teachers leading and modeling and then their peers, that has a significant benefit. They've piloted the program before rolling it out across the country and found that was a very successful way to get students to try more things. And those of you that are new may see an increase in things like, I remember we had plums on the lunch line always in one of our schools, but when they came on the fresh fruit and vegetable program, the kids got to have it in the classrooms and were actually able to try it and decide if they liked it. So then when they were on the lunch menu, they went through a lot more than they had normally because the kids were now more familiar with that item. So that's exactly the intent of the program. And then ultimately, hopefully that makes an impression on their future health and well-being. So where does all this money come from? The program is administered out of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, like all the other child nutrition programs. And so the money is allocated for at the federal level, and then Nebraska is provided with a certain set of money each year at the state level. And then through your application process, then Nebraska provides sub-award grants to eligible schools. So again, we only invite schools that are eligible to apply each spring, which all of you did. And so that's why you're here. And so in school year 21-22, we have 162 sites. And I don't know if that's the most we've ever had, but it certainly is more than we've had in the past. So that's exciting. And so that'll be really over 57,000 Nebraska students will be impacted by the benefit of this program, which is a really awesome number to think about as far as long-term benefits. So how did you get to be part of this? You had to be in elementary school, and the definition for fresh fruit and vegetable program is defined as K-8 program. You needed to represent some of the highest free and reduced price meal program sites in Nebraska, and then participate in the National School Lunch Program, and then of course complete that application, which you did. And if you want to see a list of all of the awarded schools, you can go to the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable website, which is linked here in yellow, to see who all in your area or across the state is participating. So we do want to point out that we reserve the right to remove a school's application from the application process when schools don't do certain things, such as meet the deadline for application, a school doesn't have the support of its administration, which is necessary to ensure that all of the claiming and all the pieces get done. There is a concern with other administrative elements from other child nutrition programs, so your breakfast program, your lunch program, CACFP, etc. And if a school cannot properly operate the FFVP program, despite additional support and training and technical assistance from NDE or our staff at the state, then we can select not to have you continue to participate. And so hopefully that won't be a problem, and everything and all the resources we provide will help to get you doing this well. And many of you have been doing this for years and years. So the way that the funding works is that the fruit and vegetable program grant is split into two parts. So each year schools get a July to September allotment. So today is the last day to use that first allotment of funding. And if you haven't started serving fruits and vegetables, today would be a good day to order in some napkins and whatever other paper supplies you might use to administer the program. And then the rest of your funding is October 1st through June 30th. And funds that are not spent in this first part cannot be just shifted over into the second part. They are separate. And so as far as our award process went this year, you were officially notified that you could spend funds through your electronic award letters that went out. And this year that was August 9th. And then you needed to return the addendum to our office, to one of our folks in nutrition services, and review the grant requirements, and then accept the invite to participate in FFVP in the CMP system. And that actually was sent out today. And Lauren Christensen, it was from her email. So if your authorized rep hasn't sent that on to you yet, find out where that email might be. Also, Lauren will highlight some additional pointers for some of the elements that were in that email a little later. And then also, I'm just gonna, great. If anybody has questions, I think Katie's helping monitor the chat. So go ahead and ask your questions as they come up, and then we'll get to those at the end as well. So really, when you're thinking about running your fresh fruit and vegetable program, especially for those of you that are newer, thinking about and establishing sort of roles and responsibilities. So who's ordering the produce, who's preparing, who's entering the fresh fruit and vegetable claim. Typically that's the person that does your other claiming, because it's all part of that same system and they're already familiar with it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense that someone different do that, or at least someone that's trained by that initial person, that's really helpful. And okay, so Jamie, we'll get back to your question. If I don't get to it later, email me and we'll get you figured out. Okay, Katie's gonna handle that. Because it's really important for you to be able to get into the fresh fruit and vegetable claim, because it really keeps track of your funding. And so it allows you to decide how much money you have left or that you need to spend down. And so it's an important part of the management piece. And so we'll talk a little bit more about budgeting later, but really looking at your award and making sure that you have figured out how you can spend down the funds. And then also looking or sharing out with your other staff to see where your fresh fruit and vegetable program can support other events, so that are really supportive of your potentially your wellness policy or other healthy schools efforts across your building. A lot of principals have said, like, for example, with these pictures of these of the oranges and the ghosts, like, kids don't think that stuff's fun. And I'm like, yes, they do, because teachers are amazing at making math fun, and they can make these sorts of things fun too. And I'll just point out, for the fresh fruit and vegetable program, the bananas you could charge to the program, but you would have to use other funds to get the chocolate chips, as a for example. So I want to point out the flexibilities, because this is kind of a big deal. So I'm going to put the link to this in the chat. Oh, sorry, my Google Drive's a little slow. So you, this, in case you have trouble accessing anything in Google, this document was also attached to the calendar invite. So if you have the calendar invite on your calendar, you have the handbook there as an actual attachment, as well as this document. So you can reference that. But the 21-22 flexibilities for fruit and vegetable program are fairly significant. So they allow for an outside of the school day or an alongside another meal program opportunity. So what that means is, if you have an after school program and you have extra, half a case of extra apples, you can allow that to be eaten in the after school program, whereas before that was not allowed. You can also complement your lunch or breakfast program with fruit and vegetable extra produce, That also typically is not previously allowed. And so that's an additional thing you can do this year. There is a non-congregate setting option. What that means is if you have like a backpack program and you're sending food home with kids, you could utilize fresh fruit and vegetable snacks and send that home with them instead of, well, not instead of, but in addition to offering at school. So all of these are flexibilities for this year. We understand that this is not, these won't likely be continued into future years. So if it's confusing, and you think it will be confusing to families that they'll get to do this year and not in future years, it's up to you as far as wanting to do those or implement these flexibilities. I mean, they are there and they're a benefit, but I just wanted to point that out. And then as far as the educational component, that isn't required this year, but I would still encourage it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end as well. So who can participate in the program? Students who are enrolled in the pre-K to 8th grade program can participate. So that's your Head Start students, if they're there during fruit and vegetable program service. I mean, or this year there's flexibilities, obviously, for really any child in the building or classroom to be included. So if there is a sibling in the classroom, they could also participate in the snack, or if the snacks are sent home, you can account for that sibling as part of the, say, the backpack program snacks. Snacks cannot be used as a reward or withheld for disciplinary reasons either. So program implementation. You do need to offer the program 2 times a week at a minimum. Typically, you would want to be able to do the nutrition education pieces, and then really share widely about the availability of the fresh fruit and vegetable program. So typically what most schools do to do that is they share their menu widely. So it's usually on their website. They might send it home with, just like they do their lunch or breakfast menus, putting information about the program on billboards. And then too, if you are in a K through 8 building, working with your FCS teacher to kind of highlight and do fun things around promoting the program, because they do amazing things like that every day. And so this is fits right in with what they're already doing with a lot of their students and getting the students involved as well. You can use the program by supporting like field days, celebrations, your Apple Crunch Day. All those are really fun ways to promote the program, and then also link back to fresh fruit and vegetable and your other efforts. And then you can use partnerships. So you don't have to use local produce, but it sure would be great if that's an opportunity for you. I know we have some farmers that have in the past, and I can't remember which school, provided to the school district fresh corn. And so, and then they use some of the older kids through, I think it was an FCS class, or anyway, they prepared it. And so then all the kids were able to have that opportunity to participate in that fresh vegetable. And then making sure that you're working to have a plan to forecast your spending and really watching that budget, so you're not either under budget or over budget. And then what about teachers? That's a question, or even adults in the building. So teachers can participate, but really the goal is that if adults are participating, so when I see teachers, if we have paras in the classroom too, anyone that's able to show positive role modeling for students when they're participating in the snack, and then even possibly doing some of those nutrition education pieces during snack time, it can be a great opportunity to talk about favorite fruits, or maybe things that are different or different for different families. And then in addition to your traditional snacks, teachers can also work with food service staff to do something special. So maybe they're doing a history lesson and they need a certain fruit or vegetable where they're learning about tropical fruits. And so they can work with the teacher to order in those certain things that they need. No additional funds will be provided to cover staff servings. And then the staff are responsible for the fruits and vegetables in their classroom and making sure the right people are getting that. So these are the old rules, and I just wanted to point out that typically fruits and vegetables can only be served during the school day, and then they must be served at different times than breakfast and lunch. But again, with these flexibilities that we have this year, you're able to provide fruits and vegetables before or after school programs. So if your school has a before school walking club and you want to give them bananas, that's something you can do this year with fruit and vegetable funds. So. And then where can you serve? Really, there's a variety of settings that work out really well. So in a classroom as part of nutrition education, you can serve from carts or tall boys or stands in the hallway. You can use a special kiosk. You can use a central location, such as the health office or the main office for items that don't need refrigeration. So students can come pick up, and then they're allowed to have the snack whenever it works for their classroom. I know for typically for older kids, for fifth graders, if they have a late lunch, then those older students like to have a morning snack because they get really hungry and can't pay attention. And so versus the littler kids who are eating at 10:50, then their preference is for the students to have a later snack. So doing what makes sense for the different grades. And obviously you can just get the snack ready all at once and then put in that central location, so you're not having to run around 50 times to get stuff where it needs to be. We are required to provide meal accommodations for students with disabilities. So if a student has a special diet or needs texture modified, the goal would be that figuring out how you can do that with a fresh fruit. So I know we had that happen multiple times. Sometimes it was a long-term for students that had swallowing issues, but sometimes it was short-term, like a student had jaw surgery or something like that. And so then we would figure out how we could puree fruits or vegetables, or maybe it was just they needed something soft versus like apples with the skin that was hard for them. And then it really considering those food allergies as well. And so if you have a student in a classroom who can't have bananas because of an allergy, making sure you send an alternate snack for them so they can still participate. And there's a little bit more about the special diet needs on page 6 of the handbook. And then of course, like all child nutrition programs, making sure that food safety is being followed. So washing hands before handling produce. So this is staff and students too in the classroom, sanitizing. And I think we're all maybe a little bit better at this right now. Making sure produce is washed, that this traditional labeling, dating, and refrigerating processes are all followed. And then any other local health department requirements that your area might have this year, especially around COVID. So what is allowed for purchasing fresh fruit and vegetable program supplies? So again, it needs to be fresh fruit, so not canned, frozen, or dried. You can, and I would encourage you to this year, potentially just with, especially if your administrator's concerned with touching or whatnot, working with your food distributor to purchase the pre-sliced fruits and vegetables. I know we did pineapple pals is what they were called from our distributor, and the kids loved those. That was one of their favorite things. We also did like sliced apples too, especially as we came off of breaks or like on Mondays, if we were going to do the snack on Mondays, because we didn't have the staff there in advance to get everything ready. So that is a way. And I know we have a labor shortage in Nebraska. So this is a way to still do the program with being cognizant of that labor shortage. And your supplier should be able to tell you all the variety of pre-sliced items that they can get for you. We encourage, again, local, but you're not required. Again, if you want to do something really fun and unique, I did pomegranates one year, and that was fun and unique. It was a lot. I think it was probably too much work for the food service staff, but we gave everybody half of a pomegranate to try at one of our schools at Christmas time, and it was fun. Messy. The custodians were a little annoyed with it, but it was still a fun activity. So again, similar to our other child nutrition programs, we have the Buy American provision. And so we would want you to include or purchase things that are obviously that you can buy here. But there's also produce such as pineapples or bananas that you generally can't get domestically. So schools are of course allowed for that, but same Buy American provision as all of the other child nutrition programs. And this is actually an error in the fruit and vegetable handbook, but fruits and vegetables purchased with your DoD program cannot be claimed for FFEP reimbursement. And I think in the handbook, it does say that you can use DoD. So, and then produce purchased for fresh fruit and vegetable with your fresh fruit and vegetable funding can only be used for FFEP. So that's still pretty much true for this year. You can't buy the school lunch produce with FFEP funds, but with those additional flexibilities, you can serve some those like the fruits and vegetables alongside of lunch if you need to get rid of leftovers or etc. But you still need to use your school meal funds for your school meal program. And then where do you purchase fruits and vegetables from? So traditionally, you would just use your existing food distributors and wholesalers that you are currently working with. So if you have a contract, then you can sometimes amend your contract and add on a fruit and vegetable distribution or fruit and vegetable program allocation. So depending on the number of sites that you have, sometimes you can have the suppliers can deliver to some of your different sites or all to a central location. You can also purchase direct from local producers, farmers markets, local grocers, school gardens or greenhouses, or greenhouses in your areas. You wouldn't necessarily purchase from your own, but so any of those options are okay. And again, this is outlined in the handbook for you as well. Just keeping in mind that for this traditional procurement processes, just like for all of your other child nutrition programs, do need to be followed. So if you're going to do micro purchases, you should get 3 bids if possible, if you have 3 options for that. Now, if you're in a community where you're going to make micro purchases from your grocery store and there's only 1, then you'll need to try to get bids from somewhere else outside of your own community. And then of course, document your efforts if you cannot get 3 bids secured. And then because this is a nationwide problem, if you're experiencing disruptions in supplier, the ability to deliver your produce and you need a emergency procurement option or a short-term option, you can use the 21-22 school meal supply chain procurement options that are listed here. Actually, just pull that up right. So the emergency non-competitive procurement methods do not need a waiver, and then you would just follow the process outlined here to identify who could help with those emergency procurement options for your meal service program. So that link is in your slide. Oops. And then again, I'll just remind everybody, if anyone has questions, just go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll get to that at the end here. So again, the goal of the fruit and vegetable program is to introduce students to new fruits and vegetables. So you can really be creative and consider lots of different options. So instead of just doing only one kind of apple, try to at least mix it up. So apples are pretty easy and well received by kiddos. And so let's not always do Red Delicious, but offer Pink Lady and Honeycrisp and Gala and Jonathan and Yellow Delicious. So a variety of apples on there, similar with like purple carrots occasionally, if you can find those. I know one of the suppliers we worked with had a bag of yellow carrots, purple carrots, and orange baby carrots. And so that was a kind of fun to do. You could also do things like star fruit if you want. That's fun to do. Things like if you want to do a taste testing where students would get 3 different options, like a navel orange, a blood orange, and a Valencia all together in a bag. That's another option. You can be as creative or as traditional as you want to be, but again, this really helps to get kids exposed to new fruits and vegetables, which is sort of the initial intent of the program. So what is not allowed? So canned, frozen, or dried fruits and vegetables, processed or preserved fruits and vegetables, fruit or vegetable juice, flavored or carbonated fruits, fruit snacks, leathers or strips. So pretty much any processed fruit or vegetable item. So no fruits or vegetable pizzas. Now, if a class decides to use some of the fresh fruit and vegetable program snacks to make a fresh fruit pizza in their classroom, that's a different story. Smoothies or fruit dips. So you can do dips for vegetables, low fat dip for vegetable, but you cannot do a low fat dip, say like a yogurt dip for fruit. That's still not allowed. And then I have that here too. So again, for dips for vegetables, you can do a low fat yogurt based or other low fat or non-fat dip. And then you can also do cooked vegetables. So earlier I had mentioned one of the schools that had a producer, a farmer donate corn. So the students helped with the cleaning of the corn, and then the nutrition services staff cooked that. So for cooked vegetables, no more than once a week, and it must be part of a related nutrition lesson. And so we have a lot of really awesome harvest of the month materials that can be used to support a lot of different fruits and vegetables that are available on there. Corn and zucchini are another good example of, or zucchini is another good example of another fall produce item that you may want to cook. You don't have to, but it tastes different than, quite a bit different than if you offer it in a raw form. So serving guidelines. So 2 or more times per week, purchase and serve favorites while also introducing new foods to students, so they get to have that variety and get to have that exposure. And then fruits and vegetables ideally should be presented in a form that is appealing and easy to consume. So we know for our pre-K kids, typically part of the fresh fruit and vegetable program would allow you to purchase a sectionizer. So if you don't already have one of those, but typically it's really hard for our little kids to get into an apple. And even though there is no specific portion size requirement for a certain age, we know that sometimes a whole apple is too much for the little kids. And so you can, if you have the sectionizers, then you can put them, have them sliced easily. And then you can provide to the classroom the sliced apples with the notifying the teacher that each student, there's enough for a half of an apple. That's a more appropriate portion size. And then the harvest of the month has a seasonality chart that can help you figure out what is in season when. And also this helps when you're talking to your suppliers and distributors too. I know we like to use little packs of blueberries, and we're not always available. And so if you have other things that you are interested in getting certain times of year, you can kind of check and see when they're available as well. And so when you think about who should know about the fresh fruit and vegetable program in your school that you're participating, think about your food service staff, your administrator, your school nurse, teachers. They can get really creative in the classroom. Make sure that you communicate where the menus are located so the teachers know where they will be, where they can see that information, so they can plan to utilize the snack into lessons when appropriate. Parents and PTO, and then student government. And sometimes it's fun for the students to be able to pick a menu, have them do that work for you. Say, here's the items that we can get in. Which ones should we get, or which ones are your favorite? And then you can use a variety of community partners as well if you want to, or if they're already coming into your building to do some kind of other education component, there can be a really good partner to do your nutrition education pieces. So we are going to now talk about the allowable operating costs. So these are the costs that are associated with delivering, preparing, and serving fruits and vegetables. And some examples of the operating costs look like the actual fruit and vegetables themselves, dips, paper products. So if you're using a little boat for something, or a portion cup. I know that when we serve kiwi, we oftentimes use plastic spoons. We had them cut in half and then sent them to the classroom in food bags. And so those are other paper products that you need. Plates, gloves, trash cans. If the kids are going to do an activity where they're maybe cutting something up in the classroom, plastic knives that they can then throw away. So also making sure that you're not avoiding using those pre-cut produce items because they're more expensive. That's the awesome part of fruit and vegetable program. It directly reimburses you for the cost of those things. And so again, this year with the labor shortage and some other issues, those are good ways to make sure you're using your dollars. And then for operating costs, the salaries and fringe benefits for employees who actually do the production of the snack. So wash, chop, prepare trays, distribute produce to classrooms, or clean up, that they are all, they fall under that operating costs. And then there's the administrative costs, which are separate. That's limited to 10% of your school's total grant award. And those are expenses for program planning. So if you're in a slightly larger district and you have someone that plans the menu, manages the paperwork, is involved with getting the proper equipment, ordering your paper products, etc., that would be administrative costs. And some of examples of some of those would be any kind of, again, in the purchase of actual equipment. So the purchasing or leasing of equipment that is over $100. So again, if you get that sectionizer, if you're purchasing a cooler, a kiosk, carts, a highboy, trays, things like that to administer the program. And then salaries and fringe benefits for employees who maintain the claims for reimbursement, do any kind of other financial reporting, planning menus, ordering of produce, tracking of inventory, or coordinating promotion activities. Those come out of the administrative funds. And again, this is all outlined on page 23 of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Handbook. And then also making sure that just like all the other child nutrition programs, you're maintaining copies and keeping records for at least 4 years for your fruit and vegetable application and agreement, your purchase and production records, your invoices, receipts, your timesheets, and then your service calendars, your menus, and production records. So all of that are important parts of the record keeping. And then documenting and planning for the fruit and vegetable program. So thinking about if we typically spend 4 hours a week on the prep for the fruit and vegetable program, and here's our amount of money, and here's our salary costs, and here's what we've budgeted for fruits and vegetables, etc. Taking into consideration breaks, so winter break, spring break, and then possibly if you're going to do some events, like if you have an all-day event that you're going to offer a snack in the morning as part of a school assembly or something, then those are other ways that you can budget for the program. And then everyone still needs to, everybody that's participating in their time goes towards fruit and vegetable programs. So if you're going to charge their time, then they need to have a time certification log where they track all of their hours. So this is your admin staff as well as your operating cost staff. So they would track how many hours they've worked, and if they've worked operating or admin, and then they can use this. This is an important part of the claim at the end of the month, because if it's not tracked daily, then sometimes it's really hard to go back and forth. And so we do have a link on our website, but right now it's actually taking you to the flexibilities memo. So we are aware and we'll get that fixed. But we do have an example document on the fruit and vegetable website about how that you can track your staff time. Lauren, do you want to share a little bit more about the site application instructions that you sent out today?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Christensen. I'm a registered dietitian, and I just started with NDE Nutrition Services in the beginning of August, so relatively new. But I'm excited to take over and step into the FFVP coordinator position. I did send out an email to all 3 contacts that were listed within the sponsor applications for each of the sites this morning. And I must have been a little too excited because I didn't include a subject line. But I was just so excited about sharing the information because we were Really anxious to get that information out to you about how to revise those applications, and also provided a claim guide. So in that email, there were 2 guides that you should have received. And one of them was instructions regarding how to revise the site applications. Yep, so this is the site application revision, and then also the FFVP application. So there's 2 things after we sent invites to sites that should have kind of come up on your application page. And if you scroll down, Jesse, I just want to point out, keep going for me. Oh, nope, this is the claim, sorry. Yeah, go back into the instruction one and then scroll down, keep scrolling. Yeah, so the first 3 pages indicate the revisions that are necessary within the regular site application. And if you walk through that step by step, it should be pretty seamless for you. And then the other step would be just to go into that FFVP application, and it's asking for the contact information for the individual that would predominantly be doing like the claims, or maybe the individual that would be overseeing the program. And then you would click on each of the appropriate sites that have been awarded FFVP funds. And then that will allow us to go in on our side and enter the actual allocations that were awarded to those sites. And then from there, you would be able to utilize that claim guide to begin submitting claims. And I realize people are anxious to get those August claims submitted. So we are trying to work through this as fast as possible, but we do need you to take these steps in order for us to be able to enter those allocations on our side. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, I sent an email earlier today. I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, well, I'll put it here, but so I'm going to put this in the chat as well. So this is where the 2 guides are, in case you did not get the email directly or need them. They're both in this in our folder for today with all the tools. So then once you all have everything, you've accepted your invitation for the fruit and vegetable program, you will your 2, let's say you have 2 sites, they'll come up, and then you'll click on the site that you want to add your claim information for. It'll ask each month how many days of operation for the program in this month's report. So you'll enter that there. Let's see. So then this is the actual number of days that you serve fruit and vegetables. So not the number of school days. So that's slightly different sometimes than some of the other programs, but so it may be 12, it may be 6, just depending on when you had school and how many days you served. So you're gonna, and then you'll add your claim. So, and then too, once the NDE staff get your allocation entered, you'll see this information here. So this is your grant allocated. So it'll have your grant period from October 2021 to June 2022. And it'll tell you how much that you have total available, how much operating you've spent, how much admin you've spent, and then what your balance is remaining. So it's really nice because it helps you keep track of all of that. There is a slight delay, a lag from when you enter and then the claim is approved. So some folks like to keep another document at their own shop where they track on an Excel document because that's obviously live then, as far as it's not delayed by however much time it takes for staff to get that approved. And also I have the link here to the claim guide that Lauren was just talking about. And then just to remember to submit claims by your 60-day deadline. So you have 60 days to submit the claim. And that's just for those sites that are new is an important date to remember. And we are sending out our nutrition education kit materials here that I'll talk about here in a little bit, we have a magnet on there that shows you all of the dates that you should submit your claim by. So that's helpful. And then, so here's an example of the fruit and vegetable costs. So then you would just enter the invoice of the end date. So that's the literal date that's on the yellow invoice copy or whatever color it is that you get. And then you'll put in the count of the banana. So 150 count, you had 1 unit, and then the cost, then the total cost. And so you'll just do that for the entire month's worth of produce. And then the NDE staff will review that and approve, or sometimes we'll ask questions like, oh gosh, we see that you got strawberries and they were really expensive, way more than normal. Like, why was that? Well, obviously, if you've put your order in a month before or 2 months before, or however soon you do that, and then there's like problems with a drought or something, then the price goes way up. But that might be a question that you get, and then you're able to easily justify why the price of the strawberries was super expensive. So that the other page was your fruit and vegetable costs. This page is where you enter your operational costs. So remember, those are the costs that are associated with the actual production of the fresh fruit or vegetable program snacks, and the staff involved with that work. So that's the oftentimes the food service staff in the kitchen doing all of the prep work, and then any other operational costs that you have there. So you can add that here. And then it looks like this. So here's your person doing the work, Jane Doe. She did 13 hours. Here's her rate, her total labor costs. And then here are all the supplies and other operational costs that are directly related to the delivery of the program. So they got light ranch cups. Here's the invoice date. They got two cases, and then they're $12 per case, so etc. So then you just put those in there. To add more lines, you put it in there, and then the delivery costs are allowed to be included in that from your distributor or your food company that you're working with. And then it's number 4 on the claim page, your administrative costs. So again, those are the costs of someone, typically a bookkeeper or someone at the district level who's doing your claim or assisting with your claim or entering your claim information, the people planning the menus, ordering the food, etc. So this is what that might look like. And again, for your equipment purchases over $100, so anything that you have for that. And then if you are purchasing, say a Sunkist sectionizer, for example, but you're going to use it for fruit and vegetable program and you're going to use it for lunch, so like a 50-50 split, then you would want to charge only half of that cost here to the program, since it's going to be used by lunch as well. And then it's helpful if you provide comments about certain items that you feel like you might get questioned on, or like explaining, we know we're pretty familiar with the sectionizer being charged to fruit and vegetable program. We know they're about $300. So if you're only charging $150, then you could explain that here. That's what this section is for, the claim comments. And then in addition to all of your operating costs and your administrative costs, then we do ask your nutrition activities that you offered this month, and then how you promoted your program. Remember, these are not actually required with the flexibilities, but if you did do something, we do like to hear about that and know what you're doing. Some of you are doing really amazing things, and hopefully in October, you'll be able to participate in the Apple Crunch. So if you want to put that in there as part of something that you did with fruit and vegetable program, that's cool as well. And then so once you have all of your claim information entered in, if you don't have it entered in right, you'll actually get an error. An error will pop up over here, and I think it's usually in red, and it won't allow you to submit it. So you have to go back in, and it might just mean that you put a decimal point in something that it didn't want you to, or you put a word or a letter in somewhere that was supposed to be only a numeric field, something like that. And then you hit submit for payment. And this is what your claim looks like for the month. It'll show for the month that you're submitting. And then you also, one screen out, can see your yearly summary of all of your claims that you've submitted. And you can also see, for example, here in the red triangle, if it's been processed or if it's pending approval, which means that that's awaiting someone at NDE to review everything and approve it. And then if you have more than one site, then you'll be able to see all of your allocations, both grant awards, this early award, as well as the second award for each of your sites as well. So I would encourage you to at least quarterly look at your budgeting for the fresh fruit and vegetable program and look at your remaining balance, making sure that that's slowly getting depleted so that you don't have too much left over at the end, because who knows what the spring will bring. But again, I would encourage you to use those flexibilities to help spend down your funding and things like that, with the additional option to send food home, fresh fruit and vegetable items home, supplement the after school program or before school program efforts. And then I saved all the nutrition education pieces for the end because it's not required this year, but they're really important, an important part of the program. Are there any questions on what I've covered so far, since we have 10 minutes left? And Rebecca is being so awesome in putting our crunch off day, which is October 21st, in the chat. And so if you want to sign up for that at your district, you have plenty of time to order in apples to do that. I know we would love you to use local apples. Sometimes that's not always easy to find, but we would love you to participate in the crunch off however you see fit. So that, as far as nutrition education goes, the fresh fruit and vegetable program is a really easy way to help you meet your USDA wellness policy requirements for nutrition education. We would make sure that the nutrition education activity should be age appropriate. There are so many free resources available from USDA Team Nutrition and then from Nebraska Harvest of the Month. And so the link is here on this page. You can use some of our resources like our trivia, our word finds. We have newsletters for families. There's a lot of great things. And then also, if you have a not fresh fruit and vegetable, if you have a school garden program, you can also use that as a connection. Maybe the kids are, they're doing heirloom tomatoes and peppers. Maybe you could order in something else that they're not growing, and they can do some sort of a taste test as part of that. And again, with the flexibilities with the after school program, that's a great way to be able to promote nutrition education in a time frame that we don't normally have. You'll be getting, we're going to be putting together, we have a whole room of awesome supplies that we'll be sending you that are for the nutrition education kits. So you'll be getting big boxes of materials, apple slicers, a tote bag, a whole bunch of educational materials. And then for those of you that were on before, we had floor stickers. We reprinted those again, so you'll be able to use those. I know they don't usually last for more than a year with the floor burnishers. So be looking out for that. You should probably get them early next week. And then all of our FFEP toolkit materials are included in this link here. And we also are sending you a paper copy of the toolkit guide, as well as the handbook and the flexibility memo as well. So we're a suggested use from some of the materials that we'll be sending you is to, you'll also get a banner as well if you're a new site. So making sure you hang your banner somewhere if at all possible. I know some schools have rules about hanging stuff on newly painted walls and whatnot, but you'll have a cutting board and an apple slicer. Those are great things to give to classrooms. I know when we have middle school kids with lots of braces, sometimes having that in a place where they can access that, because they'll eat an apple or a pear if they can slice it, but if they have to get it all in their braces, then they're not going to do it. And then you can use the stickers and the other educational materials. You can connect with your classroom teachers, or your, like I said, if you're family consumer science teacher, if you're in a K-8 building, or your preschool teachers, they obviously have lots of ways to use that. Or if you have an open house from your nutrition services program, I think Jamie, you might have done that at one point, or you were able to use some of the stuff that were provided for families as well, and that's all allowable. And then as far as the nutrition promotion goes, we would encourage you to work with classroom teachers to do specialized items. Maybe not this year, but in the future, if possible. I know one of the really popular ones in Lincoln Public Schools was Red Ribbon Week, which I think is coming up really soon. Oftentimes, just like building wide, they would order like a red fruit or vegetable for every week, every day of the week, and they would do a snack every day of the week for Red Ribbon Week. So they would do peppers and apples and strawberries and grape tomatoes, things like that. It's also a great way to celebrate holidays and events, schools, assemblies, farm to school week, and then like she said, the apple crunch off. So here's a little bit more information. We're having the crunch off October 21st, where we want everyone to join in celebrating and crunching off on the same day statewide. And so Rebecca did put that in the chat for you as well. You can use other fun activities as well, or send this stuff home for parents. So there's a whole PowerPoint to the nutrition promotion activities using some of the fun recipes, like Pinterest type things that either classroom teachers, early childhood teachers, or families can utilize. And then making sure that if you haven't checked out our Harvest of the Month resources, that you're familiar with that you're all signed up, and that you can have access to some of those, because they're really awesome. There's taste testing guides, there's stickers, and you just do have to be signed up to get access to all of those things. And so that is really all I have. If anybody has any questions, you can ask them now. Otherwise, let us know how we might be able to help you in implementing the program if you're new, or if you're not new but want to do more or different things this year with the different flexibilities. Let us know how we can help you. So the floor is open for questions, if there are any.
Essie, I think I saw just one in the chat.
Okay.
Said, and I believe you touched on this after she asked it, but just to clarify, you can use leftover fruits and vegetables from the FFBP if you have fruit and vegetable bar in the NSLP.
Yes, for this year you can. That's one part of the flexibilities. I know was always an issue, is, you have half a case of whatever left over. What do you do with that stuff? In a normal year, this year you can use it in your fruit and vegetable bar. You can offer it to maybe your older kids that sometimes, I know, like when we got Mandarin oranges for the kids, they were so small, and so you can let the older kids have larger servings as appropriate. So yep, you can do that this year. Any other questions before we sign off? Otherwise, we hope that you're looking forward to getting your nutrition education toolkits. We're excited to be able to send those to you, as well as making sure that you have access to that email that Lauren sent today about accepting your fruit and vegetable award, so that you'll have all that awesome stuff in the dashboard, so you can see and plan for your budgeting for the year. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Let us know how we can help you. Have a great day and a great rest of the week.